National Signing Day is right around the corner, and football fans everywhere are impatiently waiting to find out whether or not their favorite high school stars commit to their schools. So tonight I'm joined by recruiting expert Steve Jones from the Courier Journal to take a look at the Cards and Cats 2013 classes. Steve, welcome to the show. I know it's probably going to be a busy next few days for you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, definitely. It has been and it will be.
Let's start off looking at with the Cards, their list of commits. A small class, first of all. They didn't have, Charlie Strong didn't have very many scholarships to work with. Obviously, James Quick is the headliner. He's the one that everybody talks about, a big get for them out of Trinity High School, adds to an already deep stable of receivers. But who are some of the other impact guys that really could come in and make some noise in their first year? I know they got a couple guys already on campus.
Yeah, right. Well, among the guys they do have on campus, I mean, these guys are getting a head start on everybody. They'll be playing in spring practice, and one is the quarterback. His name's Brett Nelson. He's junior college quarterback from California. If you talk about guys that are probably going to play next year, he probably will be the backup quarterback for Teddy. And if something were to happen to Teddy Bridgewater, he could be starting games or something, see significant minutes if there's an injury or anything like that. And then if you look forward to 2014, it's a good chance that guy could maybe be the starting quarterback. So he's definitely a guy to watch as a player to keep your eye on. They do have another four-star commitment in addition to James Quick, who is De'Ajon Richardson from Florida. He's a really big defensive lineman, and he moved schools this year right as the season started. And if he had sort of played his whole year at his school or at his new school, had been able to do that, but because he transferred, I think you maybe probably would have seen him in some of these big All-American games after the year too. So he's kind of been under the radar because he didn't get to play this season.
Are there any, they're not that, like I said, it's a small class, but is there one or two guys that maybe aren't getting a lot of hype or maybe aren't four-star guys, but could come in sleepers, so to speak? Is there a sleeper or two that you could identify with this class?
Well, one guy that just committed last week is a defensive back from Florida named Chucky Williams, who had been committed to Ole Miss. And I was watching his highlight tape. He's a really, really athletic guy. He's 6'2", 180, going to play cornerback. I mean, that's a really big cornerback. He's mostly played offense in his high school career. He's just kind of switched over to defensive back, so he has a lot of technique to learn. But if you have a really fast guy who's 6'2", 180, and he's actually a lot younger for his grade. So, I mean, if you think about him when he's 20, 21 years old, when he's third, fourth year at U of L, then that guy has a lot of promise too.
I got to ask you about Keith Kelsey. He made a lot of noise by the way he committed with the UK hat. But what kind of prospect is he? He's a Florida guy, right? What kind of player are they getting? We know he's got some flair, but what kind of player are we going to get here?
Yeah, he was down to Kentucky and Louisville for all intents and purposes. I think he also was considered in South Florida. So I mean, he's had that kind of level. He wasn't recruited by a lot of major schools, and then these two, the two local schools have gotten in with him the last month or so. Had 193 tackles this year. His dad is Keith Kelsey Sr., who played at Florida. So I mean, he's grown up around Florida's program. He knows Charlie Strong through that, and he's just kind of a ball hawk and in on every play. So I mean, he's a volume tackling guy that strong athletic guy. So
let's switch gears and move to UK. I'll tell you, you got to give Mark Stoops a lot of credit. He's come in a short period of time and put together a pretty good class, led by a couple of four-star guys who could help immediately on defense. Darius Smith, the JUCO guy who's already on campus, and then earlier this week he got a commitment from a safety, Marcus McWilson. Talk about those two guys.
Well, Darius Smith, physically, he's just I think he's about 6'5", 6'6", 260 pounds, and there's just not that many guys that have been going to Kentucky that have that kind of physical, resume. And they beat out teams like Texas and Florida State and Texas A&M. I mean, if you look, and it kind of just really came off the radar to get him. I would be really surprised if he's not one of the starting defensive ends next year. And then you put him with a guy like Bud Dupree. Those are two pretty good defensive ends for Kentucky. Which defensive line is definitely where they need to step up. Marcus McWilson, for a high school kid, he just flipped from Nebraska. Goes to the same high school that Mark Stoops went to. As far as rankings, as good as Kentucky's gotten in the last few years, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's playing next year as a safety.
They've got a few other. They've got a lot of three-star guys as well. I know Javez Blue, the receiver's a guy a lot of people are talking about. Who are some other kids who you think might be able to come in and make some noise early?
Well, definitely him as a junior college player would be a great candidate. Another guy would be Alvante Bell is a really highly regarded defensive end from Florida, and I'm not sure how much he'll play next year, just because he'll be a freshman defensive lineman, but he's one of their more highly regarded guys. Then some guys that they still are in on could definitely be some potential impact guys too. Another guy I would say could maybe have a chance to play next year I'd like to see is Khalid Thomas, who's Poncho Thomas's brother. He's a freshman linebacker, and he's right now currently the only running back that they have signed. So.
Steve, since we got you here, I've got to ask you about Terry Rozier, man. The big 68-point performance last weekend. Rose he had a big rise in the rankings. I believe released earlier this week. Right. Talk about, you were out there. Talk about man, that had to have been pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Scout.com put out their new rankings. He moved up 68 spots after he got 68 points, which is kind of cool. He looked every bit as good of a 15th ranked guy in the country, 5-star guy. He was getting to the rim whenever he wanted to. He shot 24 free throws, made 22 of them. Hit deep threes, but wasn't doing it selfishly at all. I mean, he was getting other guys involved, kicking out to him, and then when he could take it himself, he did. And it was a truly dominating game, and I think he'd have a lot of reason to be excited about Louisville next year with him.
All right, Steve, real quick before we go, what are the chances the UK adds one of these highly profile guys they're recruiting?
I would think probably of the three, Gordon, Wiggins, and Randall, I would expect probably to get one. Yeah, I would think so.